President Obama invited you to have a beer with him, sit down at a pub, and he had an hour to spend with Obama. Not that the question will take that long to answer. What crucial items do you want to make sure to get across to President Obama to make him either aware of these items? What would be on your agenda of, boy, I'd really want to tell President Obama X over that hour with him? I know it's putting you on the spot, but I'm going to do it anyway.
The first have an advice.
First of all, I'd ask for a glass of wine rather than beer. But do you have an answer to that, Bernard?
No. Honestly.
I would advise him to be himself as much as he possibly can. I think he does a good job. I really like the way Obama comes across and pretty much everything he's done. But really to be himself, to spend enough time with himself, enough time with his family, to not take too seriously what everybody tells him, and I'm sure he has lots of advisors who help him with that, because you get so many projections, as Bernard said. Positive aren't good for you and negative aren't good for you. He really has to find a direction in himself and in his own thinking and in his own feeling, and stay true to that. And when you look at great leaders, I think of Gandhi, Churchill, people like that. They just stayed true to what they knew and who they were, and just kept going with that. And if you aren't reelected, you aren't reelected. Don't worry too much about the politics. That would be my advice. I think he's a very attractive personality, and he'll probably people will like him and reelect him. But the country is so divided and split along racial lines and political lines, ideological lines, that I don't think he can look outside for his cues. He has to look in. He has to look inward and ground himself in his own knowing and knowledge of himself. And this is how I look on that model of the leadership, the rainmaker. It's not so much the magic of it. I think there is some magic involved in it, but spending some time meditating, introverting, drawing mandalas, staying close to yourself, and coming out of that with your own ideas and your own feeling. That's what I think a leader should do. And I think Obama's pretty good at that, actually. I'm not so sure he doesn't have some understanding of that if you read his book. He's widely read. Jungian psychology has really permeated the culture to a large extent. I don't think the idea of collective projections is a very esoteric subject anymore. He probably has read it in magazines, if not in, the collected works of C.G. Jung. But I think he has read widely. He's a very intelligent man. He's been at good universities, California, New York, Harvard, lived in Chicago. He's been around. And I think it's enough in the culture that people at that level do know something about collective projections and the danger of them. These symbols that pop up during times of crisis. Jung talked in the Wotan essay, when the libido regresses to these old riverbeds, symbols get generated, and those symbols can be very dangerous if you just take them on as a mantle and try to live them. Then you become as possessed as the population by the archetypal energy behind that. On the other hand, every leader is a symbolic figure and has to know how to use the symbols of his office. And so there's a kind of, manipulation's a bad word, but let's say use of the symbolic value of the presidency, of the White House, of the Oval Office. All the presidents do that. You can do it more or less consciously. The bully pulpit. He has an exceptional power in that position, a symbolic power. And so I think a leader has to know how to use the symbolic to his own advantage, or the advantage of his ideas, his direction, where he's trying to take people. And it generates opposition and resistance as he's getting, which is good. In democracy, there should be resistance. If everybody's going along, it's even more dangerous. That's really then I think people get too inflated that they really have the right direction and know everything. And so the resistance is a very good thing if it doesn't go over the edge, if it doesn't go too far. But to hear other points of view and realize that reality is complex and no single person knows everything, it's very useful. Another danger of leadership is that they can be surrounded by people who don't give them the bad news. And I guess I would advise Obama also to listen to your critics and as much as you can take and take that on board. But realize that reality is made up of a lot of oppositions, and the symbol might be able to bring some of those opposites together, but not always all of them. So I think the use of the symbolic is very important in a leader's position.